Hey, welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Rotimi Atai, and we're back again on the Good Morning Education Show. It's going to be a fantastic time. Trust me, trust me, trust me. We're streaming from Lagos to Nigeria to West Africa to Africa and the entire world. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always a bright morning. It's always a great morning. It's always a sweet morning on the Good Morning Education Show, and we always discuss about issues around the world of education, and I'm sure you do not want to miss out on the show. From time to time, we'll bring a guest analyst, sometimes special guests, to talk about their field of expertise and to share their thoughts on the subject matter of the day. We look at field within the world of education topics, and then they also give us their own dimension and view and perspective on the subject matter of the day. And today will not be an exception. Today will not be an exception. Make yourself available for the Good Morning Education Show today as we spend time together, as we learn together, as we ultimately also grow together. It's going to be a great morning. I believe it's going to be a great morning. And on the show, we also spend time to look at the news and things that are happening in the world of education, and then we'll translate that into a review, and after the review we'll go straight to the topic of the day. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome, welcome, welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. Please, could you do me a favor? If this is your first time, if this is your very first time on the show, please do not hesitate. Do not hesitate to do something. Tell us it's your first time. Tell us your location. And then, of course, we have what I call the bell of blessing, as we ring the bell of blessing to you for your first time experience on the Good Morning Education Show. And of course, I believe that even aside that, I would say you also should make yourself available, send in your comments, your contribution. If you have questions, do not hesitate to ask your questions, and of course, we will take your question. And I'll be bringing up our guest analyst for today. I'm bringing in Finn. Finn, good morning. How are you, Finn?
Good morning. I'm fine this morning. Good morning, everybody. Trust your weekend was rejuvenating and was restful.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. You're looking bright and early today and looking good. Are you there? All right. So we'll be speaking today on a topic that I believe will catch your attention, and it's actually on legacy. Legacy building. How grand is enough? How grand is enough? Legacy, how grand is enough? And that's what we'll be talking about today. We'll be talking about that today. All right, without wasting much time, let's head over to the news. And then from the news, we'll review the news together, and we'll be right back to talk about the conversation on the topic, legacy building. How grand is enough? And of course, Titi's early today. Titi, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Rotimi. Good morning, Fifolu. Good morning, everyone that's joining us and listening. It's a bright Monday morning.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right, so let's just head over to the news. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back as we take the news for the day. Welcome back. Welcome back. So let's have feedback from the news. Let's start with Spain. What caught your attention? Do you want to pick an item first?
Yeah, one news item that caught my attention is the 50-year-old woman that enrolled in school. Yes, we have been talking about shattering limiting beliefs, shattering mindsets that say, "Oh, you can't do this." And yeah, we have seen many older people return to school. Many older people take up their education step where they left it, and having more of this, having this woman come up to tell us what that she's back in school, even though she's finding mathematics a little difficult. I believe she's going to catch up, even for younger people. Some find mathematics a little difficult, but it's worthy to know that she's not giving up on herself wherever she is right now, wherever it is she might have stopped. That's encouraging. That's cheering news, really. I just choose to look away from starting off with the not so pleasant news headlines out there. But that's cheering news to start off the week.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think another good news is the um Enugu State person that won the competition. So I think that's good. We need more competitions that help us discover, encourage learning and what people are achieving in their education. So I think that's also commendable.
Okay. I don't know if you got the wind of the OAU management on alleged rape.
You know the thing about rape is always it's rarely something that there's a whole audience. It's always two people, so it's always he said, she said. And while there's no audience, there's usually sometimes no proof in that sense. It's something that needs to be taken seriously. It's something that needs to be given benefit of the doubt. So when they come and say this statement, we don't act on rumors but facts. I felt it can send off the wrong vibe. We know that when rape happens, a lot of people don't like to come forward because of the backlash that they get. Um, because of the backlash that they get, where people don't believe them, people start saying all sorts of things. Maybe you encourage them, or maybe one thing or the other, or it's based on the way you dress. So it already has so many things. So it's a very sensitive issue, and it needs to be given the right kind of support from management, whereby management shows that, you know what, if you do have this, come forward. It's okay to come forward. As against we don't act on rumors but on facts. Remember what I said, those facts are usually very difficult to prove. It's always a he said, she said, because most of the time only two people are typically involved. People are also not very educated to know that if this thing happens to you, what you should do. In Nigeria, or like when you watch in movies where immediately that happens, you can go and do all those tests. It doesn't really happen there that way. But it's a sensitive issue. We are pushing a lot about violence against women, about women being sexually abused. So it's something that the management needs to tread with caution and be very sensitive to what each statement they say can be misinterpreted.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you, and I believe that it's time that we really take things like this seriously, because also there are technical grounds that can actually cause a delay, which eventually makes the material of non-effect. So rape issues are not things you take too long to deal with, because by the time it takes a long time, then you start having issues with, oh, well, there is no verified fact. And it's not like someone stole a sheet of paper, you still have the dynamics of timing to these things. All right, let's have another. So let's have another news headline, and that is Amnesty program beneficiary backs first class in UK varsity. Any comment on that?
Okay. So if this is the amnesty program of well, there are quite a number of amnesty programs, but if it's the one for whichever one it is, there was that people gave their opinion about this amnesty thing, like, okay, people that there are pending cases in court, some of them are maybe mistaken identity or something that wasn't as serious as people having blown up other people or killed or done so many other serious things, and then amnesty was granted to them. So let's hope, well, I'm hoping that this beneficiary has been able to turn their life around, to be able to bag a first class, that they really have been able to turn their lives around. They can go back to where they came from or where they're coming from and try to dissuade others from towing the line. We don't need things to have gotten really, really bad. We don't need to have gotten very, very bad before we start having amnesty programs and then having people reformed and having them go through this route. Really doesn't have to go that way. So let's hope that this particular person, thank you, Niger Delta militants, let's hope that this particular person can go back home and have a conversation with the people, with other young people in that part, and those maybe currently in the act or planning to get into the act. Like, it really doesn't have to, really do not have to go that route for you to make something good of your life, because this could easily swing in the way of others thinking, well, let me go become a militant and then I'll get into the amnesty program and then I'll get sent to the UK. It really doesn't have to go that route.
Titi, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I mean, I'm in line with what Fifolo has said, in terms that, yes, we're happy that something has come out of it, but then again, it's the same thing. If I'm a poor person sitting there saying, you know what, maybe I should just go and join these kidnappers, and then eventually they will sponsor my education, not even to Nigeria, to the abroad, and they will sponsor both, because the Amnesty sponsored both his BSc and his master's program. So while we commend it, I think for me it's how do we work more on educating people to the extent with the basic education where they don't feel that going this route of going to join all these militants is the way to go. How do we even start with the basic education? Because that's what it is, whereby you are, when you join this thing, is because of a lot of it is due to, I don't want to say literacy levels, but it's due to that. So while we commend his graduating, I feel is to really, really go and see what we can do in terms of basic education in those areas. I don't know if you remember I think it was last week or a week ago, where one of the people from the northern states was talking and was saying that one of the reasons why a lot of people join all these things is can be traced back to their level of education, and that the more they're educated and enlightened, they're able to kind of recognize some of the truths that untruths that are told them that cause them to follow these militants. So education, really, Nelson Mandela said it so many, it's the easiest way for us to change our world, and we need to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Then we have the news on thousands of students undergo screening for SAT, that's SAT, at Unilag International School. And then there was a picture that showed the cross section of the people gathered there in their numbers. Do you have something to say about that?
Well, I don't blame the students. I really do not blame them because through our headlines, we see one talking about ASU planning to shut down schools again. So I really do not blame them. After thinking, they must have thought about it. Look, my opportunities are better out there. So let's just take a grab at it. Let's just make a go for it and hope that it's much better for us out there. So well, I don't blame them, but I'm hoping that the government would see this, other stakeholders would see this as it's a potential danger. In fact, it's not even potential anymore. It's a danger for our education sector when we have our students aspiring to leave the shores of the country. It doesn't even matter if they're going to other African countries. For so many of them, it calls for urgent intervention. It calls for beyond just sitting at the table and making sounding intelligent and sounding like, oh, we're doing something. We really, really need to get to do something and ensure that strikes today, shutdowns tomorrow, and all of those kind of things are no longer mantra when it comes to our education sector.
Okay,
But
Titi,
can
we're
I
talking.
ask, is this really news? I mean, this taking of SAT, GRE, GMA, it has been since 19 Korodo,
Yeah,
you
it
know.
has become part of our life.
It's I know in my time when I went to school some decades back, um people are doing this SAT. People, people are doing SAT. People even after we finish university, people will go and do GRE, GMAT. You know, there's always been that jackpot mentality. Of course,
But
with a lot that's
the
happened.
Japa mentality did not really get this attention. It was
Yeah.
happening, like it was happening, and it was actually huge numbers, but not like now that it's like it's not even an option. It's like the the norm. You know, everybody's just trying their possible best. That's a new type of lottery system.
Yeah. So honestly, the other thing is that people can also only hear one side, one story of one out of millions did this, and they feel that's the way to go. I would always advise that each person needs to look at their own situation. They need to look uh, honestly at what's the best route to getting what they want. Because when you do the SAT, does it automatically means that all problems are solved? How many people would get scholarship? That scholarship that fully funds the education. Some people get scholarship for only tuition. What about your airfare and your upkeep? How would you also do that? So
I,
it's a whole lot of things. It's easy to just see one little part of the elephant, the tail, and just feel that you got this. But honestly, in all things, we wish everyone the best. You know, in their journeys, and may you get to your destination. I think that's always my prayer.
a,
Amen.
a medal of blessings. You know, when Titi mentioned that how many people get full scholarship, it just made me chuckle because some people are not planning for scholarship. Some people just need something they can use to get visa because they've tried all the visa, tourist didn't work, immigration didn't work. So so sometimes it's just a means to an end. Now another strike looms. ASU declares plan to shut down universities.
This one just tells us that as parents, if you plan that your child is doing university in this Nigeria, just be gathering your money ready for private universities. Because the whole of last year, I'm not sure the students were in school the whole of last year, adding COVID to it. But even before COVID started, I think ASU was on strike. So by the time, of course, COVID started, it loomed to the end of the year. So technically, they've all lost 1 year, and then they are still on this thing. So that's my own. Oh, we need to encourage more private universities to open. We need to encourage more private universities to open. I strongly believe that tertiary education needs to move away from government funding. That's why all this strike is. It's always about money, allowances, and all that. They need to move away from. That's why the private universities, you don't hear them go on strike. What are they? What are they going on strike for? So the solution for me is really, how does our tertiary university move to be self-funded? How can they solve problems for industries where industries fund them? How can they add value where private sectors are giving them endowment fund that would help? How are they doing research research that are solving problems that people would want? So they should go and look at the universities abroad and ask them how they do it, so that the amount of funding they get from government is just like a small help, but they on the other side have solved a lot of it. There's so many things. I mean, I always admire Unilag because there's so many things that Unilag as a school on its own is doing to raise what we call internally generated revenue. They do a lot to raise, and why can't other schools do the same? So they need to move from a place where they are so dependent on government for support. That's why I'm a bit against any new university that is coming up that is government money. So remember that those was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago? That's why I'm against it, because anything that they are doing that is going to be government funded, that they're looking, I'm completely not for it, because I don't see a very bright future. So we need more of these universities, private universities that have a revenue model on how they'll be getting money to keep them sustainable. That's really the important thing. Once that happens, all these ASU they just become, a support party. I think that's what I would do.
Wow. So, well, the truth is, I know that once that kind of thing takes, even you can predict that a 4-year course will be a 4-year course, because nobody wants to waste resources spending money to keep themselves on a continuous session. NYSC management sacks over 30 senior officials, gives reasons. That's the final one for today.
Okay, if that's going to translate into better services, better structure, if that's going to mean that something is going right within the system, then welcome development. If it's just one of those things, just witch hunting, then if it's one of those things of witch hunting or looking for somebody or some people to bear the brunt, then I would say that NYSC really, really needs to up their game and face what the real issues are. Maybe going into the body of the news, it might be stated there what exactly they were laid off for. But if it's not explicitly stated, let's hope that this is house cleaning and that they're putting their house in order.
Honestly, what I would say is, I think one day we need to come and have a discussion on, is NYC still relevant? Is this something that should continue? Should they start or stop the program? I think that's one day. Rotimi, we need to have that discussion and get other people's point of view. When the people talk about witch hunting, I'm always laughing, because it's usually, if you had no sin, there will be nothing for them to witch hunt you. Witch hunting means that they know your sin and they just wait for the day when you cross the line. And then they now bring out your dossier. They now bring out your dossier and say, you are doing holy here. You forgot that you are not without sin. You're not without sin. So when I look at the challenges of NYC, as I said, it's something for another day's topic. It has its plus. For some people, without NYC, they will never. that will be their first real job, and that will be their first pay that is guaranteed for 1 year. After that, looking for a job becomes like a nightmare. 2-3 years pass. So, but does the system have its many flaws? Yes. Should they try and get it fixed? Yes. But I think we need a day where we talk about what's the whole objective again of NYC. Are we achieving the objective? Has the program outlived its use? Should we, so that's what I would say. Thank you, Gideon, for joining. Gideon is providing more context to why there's an increase amount. Yes. I think post-COVID, before COVID, a lot of the countries were trying to restrict, Nigerians' migration, immigration. A lot of the highly skilled visas they used to give, they've closed it. But and Trump has gone. So truly, maybe a lot of these things are additional factors that have opened up the increased interest in doing SAT. The fact that now UK is trying to encourage, they want to steal our doctors, they want to steal our little people that we are just even managing here. They've also encouraged a lot. They've opened some new visa routes for people to relocate. Same thing with the UK, America. I know that there's this post has been flying in all the educational groups I'm in about how the states are looking for teachers. First of all, it started with teachers to teach Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. Then now it's a whole lot more. So I guess all those things, have also, increased the demand, which was already there. The demand was already there. It just helped increase the demand of people looking for the way out. Then by the time we add our problems, they want to increase fuel price. The NEPA bill has gone high. No job. We are hungry. We are starving. Anyway, I think we should enough of the news. Let's go to the business of the day. Rotimi, back to you.
All right, thank you very much. And if you're just joining us, this is the Good Morning Education Show, and it's a great morning here, always a great morning here. We're talking about legacy building and how grand is enough. How grand is enough. And, especially within the corporate space and most importantly, the education space, we don't seem to hear enough about legacy being an intentional thing. Legacy building, what exactly is it? What should be the focus? What should inspire legacy? I'm going to start the conversation with Finn. When we talk about legacy building, what's your take on this? What should be our disposition, especially for those who have some level of positional influence and authority? Finn, over to you.
Okay. Legacy building is just leaving footprints on the sands of time, leaving something that other people coming behind can benefit from. So when we talk about legacy building, people build legacies in different ways. People, depending on what their goals, depending on where their heart is, depending on what they consider as important, we build legacies in different ways. So we have people who maybe erect a building and put their names to it so that as long as that building remains standing, and sometimes even when the building is no longer standing, you remember that, oh, this particular place, there is one golden house, or there is Diamond Jubilee house, something. They want to imprint their names on the sands of time like that. But for me, when we talk about building a legacy, I would say that it should be something more, a gift that keeps giving, not just erecting a statue. Yes, it's good to erect a statue and say, oh, this belongs to my great grandfather, and this is who he used to be. This is how great he was. But then, what's that doing for anybody? What's that adding to anybody? I would consider foundations. other organizations, institutions that give back to people, that take care, that adopts. In this case, now looking at it in the education sector, maybe adopting a school, adopting students, having ICT centers, test centers, instituting exam coaching, stuff like that, things that add to the lives of others, so of the future, not exactly giving them, taking cash and putting it in their hands and say, okay, take this because we're remembering so and so person in our family. And so we're giving this, it's just a one time gift of food, one time gift of cash or stuff like that. But then we can give people what they can use, what they can reproduce to also leave a legacy for others after they have reached a particular point. So for me, legacy building should touch lives, should impact lives years and years and years and years after the person that instituted it or the person it was instituted for is no longer around.
All right. I have a question to what you said, but I'm going to ask Titi to also give an introductory remark.
Is Rotimi there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so Titi, I want you to also wade into the conversation. What is your perspective of legacy building?
Legacy is something it starts with an intentional mindset whereby you say that I want to leave something behind that would outlive me. And when you start with a legacy mindset, it's never the end. People feel you serve 4 years in government, at the end you start leaving a legacy. No, a legacy is something you always start with. And I don't want people to listen out there to think a legacy only happens when you are in government or you're in a position of no. A legacy is every time you start a job, say to yourself, what do I want to leave here that outlives me? Do you want to leave a new way of doing something? Do you want to introduce a new curriculum? Do you want to have documented the processes so that when people look back and say, oh, it was this person that did this? That's what legacy really is. So when we talk about legacy building, I don't want people to think big and fast. No, those are for the big boys. Those are for management. No. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, when you start something, you say, I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a footprint in time. Everyone should have a legacy building mindset. It's a leadership mindset where when I go into somewhere, I want to leave something behind. Everybody must have that mindset. I want to leave that when I've gone years after this, saying, oh, it was this person that did this. It was this person that implemented this thing. It was this, and it's not only leaders, it's not only management, it's not only those in government that leave legacy. So let's say you're a teacher, you're an ICT teacher, and you come in and find out that, oh, they're not doing this, and you go on your own, put it together, build it, help them implement it. When you go away from that school, and then they look back and they're still doing that, you left a legacy there. You left a legacy there. You know how a lot of people tend to do it at the end, So let's say you're about to leave your university, then all of us say, let's do something that will remind us. We do it in NYC as well. I remember that in NYC, funny enough, a lot of time in NYC from our group, they'll say, oh, what do we want to do? And you find that in NYC, some people created a statue and then put a set of this, NYC is a place that does a lot of legacy building. Every set, they kind of give you something that you want to do, depending on what will I say? Depending on which community they put you in. So it's a mindset that everyone should be. Don't wait to the end of your life. Don't think that legacy involves money. I see a lot of people now, they're building universities, they're implementing secondary schools as legacies. They want things that would, stay beyond their companies, that people will remember them for. So you see a lot of universities now, we know who are the people behind them because they're building them as legacy. I know one woman that sold all her, as she was getting old, she sold a lot of her properties to establish a university because she knew that more than the properties that she had, the university would be her legacy. Something that will live and outlive her. So I just want people listening to know that you don't have to have money. You don't have to have money. You don't have to be in a position of power to leave a legacy. A legacy is a mindset. It's a mindset that wherever I go, when I leave that place, I've left something behind that people will come back to and see, that I left this. I was here. You understand? It's like how you go to places when we're in primary school. Titi was here. You can write it on the toilet. Or you can put, I came, I saw, I conquered. People, those are people's legacies. You write it on your desk, with your whatever you want to say, put your name, a way of, so when people come back, they'll know that you are there. So that's really what legacy is. It's saying everywhere I am, once I go in there, I'm going to leave my prints, in the sand of time.
Thank you so much. Very profound. Which takes us to another question. And I'm coming back to Finny on that. And of course, for those of you following us, thank you for joining. We are speaking on legacy building. Our ground is enough. Please send in your comments and contributions, and if possible, send in your questions as well. Finny, let's look at the second part of the topic, which says how grand is enough. We've seen people demonstrate and model their pursuits, or better still, their path to developing or building legacy of some sort. And most times it's thought out in a monumental form. How grand is enough for you?
The grandness or the how grand legacy is depends on the person instituting it, or the people or the institution instituting it. Like we have said in the opening, that it doesn't usually have to be something very big. If you can go big, fine, go big. If you can't go big, it could be something very, very, it could be all the legacy that some people might need to leave is donating desk to a school, and they have their names on it. The way we have in some churches, families donating pews and all of that, and you have their names on it. If that is the need that they can meet at that time, and that's what they can afford at that time, then go for it. Legacy, I think, uh, in our climb, we think more about legacy building and leaving a legacy in terms of very big things, in terms of, oh, it's only the rich that leave a legacy. It doesn't only have to be the rich. I have a friend who passed on very recently, and one of the legacies he left was that in his community, he paid for WAEC exam for the children in that community and organized coaching sessions for them. That's how far he could go. If somebody else could build an entire university, then go for it. But for me, the important thing is not in the size, it's not in how grand the legacy is, it's in the effect that it has on the people. Is what are you contributing to the lives of those who come across or interact with that legacy? So how grand, go as grand as you want, as you want it to be, but make sure that it is something that is contributing positively to the lives of those who come across it.
Thank you so much. Which really helps people to look at it from a different perspective. I actually normally, when I teach and I have privilege to speak with leaders, I try to amplify Titi's definition of legacy. And I also try to shock people's reality that legacy is not what you leave behind. Actually, right, in amplifying it, it's not what you leave behind, it's what is left of what you've done. So most of the time, you find out that what we're doing now is actually the legacy. It's not a project, right? The project is the initiative, the embodiment of the legacy, which I was using as the question of monuments. Now, when we look at the step-by-step process to legacy, right? The very first thing that is captured, which also makes it look like as inclusive as possible, is that the very first major thing that can actually serve as legacy is the memory. So how do I make people feel when I interact and interface with them? That in itself is legacy. We set legacy every moment. We set legacy every minute. We set legacy every time we meet someone. So when I meet with Finn, legacy is happening. When I meet with Titi, legacy is happening. So the first thing is the memories, because we might not have much to do. We might not have enough time. We might not have enough investment for us to look at the day where we will set up monuments. So very first thing that we must bear in mind is that memories is more or less the first rung in the ladder of setting legacy or building legacy. Then a message. I'm sure most of us know Martin Luther King Jr. I have a dream. There's a message. A legacy is also considered that not just memory, but the message. I recall my dad telling me some things about his dad, and born into a Christian family like that, there are certain things that are a big deal. And you can't just imagine. You didn't hear the man say it, but now hearing his own son saying it, who's now having a son, that's in itself, it's a message. It's like also people of faith knowing that something has been transferred to you as a message. That itself is legacy. Legacy is not just memories alone, it's also the message. Most of us must begin to ask ourselves consistently, what's the core of the message? I went to a school where the founder had a mantra, and I was privileged to anchor like an MC. The Wake Keeper, is it Wake Keeper? Yeah, it was like service of songs and I recall using that statement that the lady used to use. She says, work hard, pray hard, play hard, and be nice. And that's a mantra that whenever she had opportunity to talk to us, she would insert that mantra that in life, work hard, play hard, as in play, play hard. Then it doesn't stop there. Pray hard. So when you work hard. When you play hard. When you pray hard. And then she tops it up with and be nice. And that really was something that came through secondary school, eventually came through in university. It sometimes comes in once in a while. And also in the life that we live post-university, adulthood life, we begin to see that these things are actually life philosophy. But that was a message. So she probably didn't give me anything else than that. That is enough. There's memory, there's message. Then, of course, you now also understand that some people lead missions, I set you on a mission to do something. So sometimes you find that an organization is raised up to champion a mission in the education space. You hear people saying, our goal is to raise global leaders, blah, blah, blah. That's a mission. Mission itself is a legacy. And when we know that, teachers must realize that our mission is to raise intelligent students. So we should understand that a mission in itself to us is a legacy. If we disregard the memory, if we belittle the message, if we ignore the mission, we are missing out big deal on the deposit that we can have in the lives and in the lives of people and the lives of organizations. And then the fourth one is what I call a mandate. It's almost similar to mission, but it's a bit higher. It's a mandate. Now I have finished my course and I want you to go. Without saying you should go, I've resonated that with my total being, that you naturally just copy me and put it through. Most of the things we see in culture transformation, or well, not culture transformation, most of the things we see in the culture prevalent in organization is also legacy, because someone somewhere has actually infected people with a mandate to go and do likewise. Then the final one is the regular one, where most times is in the place of visible things like monuments. So setting up a structure, donating a building, creating something, buying something, contributing for something. Monument is what most people wait for. Guess what? People wait for that at their landmark years, when they turn 40, when they turn 50, when they turn 60, when they turn 70. We all don't know how long we'll live. As much as we pray to live long, we must also understand that long or longevity starts with moments, and moments starts with seconds. Do you understand? So shouldn't belittle all that and now miss out on a great deal. So really, monuments are things that we can erect in our name or erect to our philosophy or belief, but it's the last part of what legacy building is all about. And which will lead to my question I'd like to ask Titi. Now that we begin to see that a lot of people are trying to set up foundations, some foundations are spineless, spineless foundation, just there. Everybody feels that once it's a landmark building, they need to start the foundation. What's your take on this? Is this an abuse? How are people confusing initiative with legacy? Titi, over to you.
Rotimi, I think you said it when you said that your legacy is actually the memories you leave behind of the lives of people that came in contact with you. So that's really your greatest legacy. When when you die, how do people remember you? Remember, oh, he touched me. I remember this he did when I was down. That's really your greatest legacy. So when we look at our parents, our lives are their greatest legacy, and every other person that they impacted their life. So a lot of people, as they come to the end of their lives, yes, set up foundations. I think in the end, each person should walk their path, but let's not do it to let's not do it with a 100% selfish motive. And then in some cases, there's some things that let's leverage on what already exists rather than recreate the wheel. So if you want to do a foundation, but there are already people in that field doing a lot of work, my question is, can your foundation work with them? Because the real impact is in the numbers. When there are few of us scattered all over the place, as against when this same few come together, we make a bigger impact. So that's one of the ways I look at it. And I'll give two examples of foundations that I'm in. And one was set up for my parents when my mom passed on. So what happened? My sisters and I, when my mom passed on, said, what do we want to do? So when we thought about all the money that we give my mom regularly and she's no longer here, what can we do? And we said, let's start something. Let's start something where we're helping, widows that were in a bit like my mom. So in a sense, we then started a foundation, and we've done a lot more with it. But even in doing that, we still partner with a lot of people, because I'm of the opinion that if there are already people doing that in that field, how can we partner with them? So it's not about trying to leave a name and say my foundation is bigger than your foundation, but it's really the genuine thing behind it. What can I do? How can I impact in the area that, so to speak, my values align with, in the areas that I'm passionate about? There's another foundation that I'm involved in, is the same thing, which is helping children in poor communities get access to free education. So as I said, that foundation is good, as long as we know what we are doing it for, as long as we can also, as much as possible, partner with other people, so that we're not reinventing and recreating the wheel, and our impact can be more. But what I would just want people to know is that you don't have to wait for a foundation to set up a foundation at the tail end or doing a major milestone. Every day that you live, every day you come in contact with people, you're leaving a legacy. So make up your mind now to leave a good legacy. And I want to share the story of and I'm hoping that people realize how you don't have to be wealthy to live, but some wealthy people, yes, do. One day in 1888, a very wealthy and successful man was reading his brother's obituary in the papers. And as he read the obituary, he realized that the editor had confused the two brothers. So instead of writing the obituary of his brother, they had actually written his own obituary. And the headline proclaimed, "The merchant of death is dead." And they described a man who had gained his wealth helping people kill one another. Not surprising, he was very troubled by a glimpse of what would have been the legacy he was leaving behind if actually he had died. And that was the day that he then made up his mind to leave a different legacy. And that's when he decided to leave his entire fortune to funding awards each year that recognize the works of people that had most benefited the community. And of course, this is a true story. This is the story of Alfred Nobel, the inventor of the dynamite and the founder of the Nobel Prize. So what I want to say is that as people are listening to us today, is the question to say, what legacy do you want to leave? What impact on the lives of people that meet you daily do you want? You don't need money to do that. You don't need a foundation to do that. Every time you go out of your way to help people, look at teachers. Teachers are one of the people that leave a fantastic legacy, because when your students come back and say, "Oh, Mrs. Finn, do you know it's because of you that I fell in love with maths and did this course? Do you know it was because of that thing you said to me this day? Do you know it was?" That's a legacy. So teachers are in the easiest position to leave a legacy, and the legacy you leave is in the lives of each and every child that you impact. What you do to them every day, the genuine interest and concern you put in their lives, how you mold them to be leaders of tomorrow. I keep saying this story. I like how one day Fashola went and recognized his teacher, and he kept on saying, "Oh, the impact of what this person did." That is the position every teacher has. In those days, they used to say that a teacher's reward is in heaven, because they know that there's a fantastic legacy that you leave behind. So my question to every educator that is listening: how grand do you want this legacy in the lives of each and every child that comes into your classroom and comes in contact with you? How do you want to be one of the people that leaves an footprint in the sand of time in building them up to the greatness? Because in the end, they are your greatest legacy.
Fantastic way to end that, and which really means that the deposit of development or the deposit of building legacy is actually having a name that is worthy of, how do I put it, worthy of praise, a name. And it's not because of fame, because they are not the same thing. They might sound alike, but they are not the same thing. A name and a fame. You can be famous for a lot of things, but having that name is very important, where it's almost like it's household because of impact, because of influence. I sometimes remember sometimes when we're going on trips and we're in a plane and the plane is about to taxi to the runway, and then there's this funny thought that just comes to your mind: what if this is your last flight? And you now wonder, oh, can I put on my phone to just, make a post on social media so that people, God forbid, people just feel, oh, he said something nice, or he knew he was going to die, this kind of thing. Silly thoughts. But the truth of the matter is that those things send that, how do I put it? It sends a signal to you that, look, there are times that, look, this is it. You've played your last script, you've played your last card. There's nothing you're going to rewrite. So you better make sure that you treat life as the real thing and not a rehearsal, so that you are building legacy, and doing the right thing just because it's right. Helping people, putting a smile on people's faces. That is magical. There's nothing that people can misplace for that, And I'd like to give our parting shot as we end the show today. And someone out there needs to hear this. Legacy building, how grand is enough? Payne, over to you.
Okay, so from me, I would say that there is something in your hand that you have to offer or to give to the next person, start now, set out now, whatever it is that you know that you can add, that can add value to others. Give it now. Don't wait until there's so much. Don't wait until it becomes national news or global news. Start from where you are now. Give of that which is in your hands. It could be just a listening ear. All that the next person, you could be very good at listening, and all the next person to you needs is somebody to onboard into. If that's the legacy that you can begin to build from now, then build it. Give what is in your.
Okay, Titi, are you there?
Yes, yes.
I think network yanked me out. So, Titi, your parting shots, please.
My parting shot is go and build a legacy. Start now.
There you have it, Titi. I said, go and build a legacy. Start now. Fee, you're back. Do you want to just quickly finish in the next 1 to 5 seconds?
Yeah, so whatever is in your hand to give it now. Go out, start today.
Fantastic. There you have it. The ladies have said it. I have said it. I said, whatever you have, go and start it. Titi says, go and build a legacy now. Build a legacy today and always. Remember, you need to do it with your memories. You need to do it with your message. You need to do it with a mission. You need to do it with a mandate. And eventually, you also can do it through your monument. It's all we can take today on the Good Morning Education Show. We will be back tomorrow, same time, and I hope you have a great time. So, ladies, please sign up for us.
It's always a great morning on the Good
Morning Education Show.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye.